Good evening. Tonight, another launch mishap yesterday. It's time for Firefly. Amazon officially enters the Constellation sweepstakes. Jared Isaacman advances from the Commerce Committee to the full Senate. And Apex closes a $200 million round to accelerate satellite production. That and a rather sobering visual. From the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And as you know, this show is hosted by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. And what is that? Well, we're a private 501c3 nonprofit institution. We champion and strengthen emerging space startups, space scalable small and medium enterprises, and space adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy across the funding spectrum. Our programs fortify business plans and investor readiness for founding teams at varying levels of development. Now, a lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by our listeners and fans like you. So if you would kindly go to the QR code at the upper left of the screen, it will take you to our donation portal. Keep helping us out. A little in the tip jar each month makes a big difference. Thanks in advance. Joining me now is one of my podcast producers, an entrepreneur, one of my oldest space friends, Michael Lane from Liftport. Michael, come on in. Great to see you.
Hey, how are you?
Hey,
It's
looks like we blew up another one.
it's well, right, yeah, for sure we did. It's the first day of spring. It's 75 degrees in Seattle. I mean, I know that technically on the calendar, but Seattle takes a minute to catch up. So
Yeah. It's that
yeah,
wet.
it's pretty nice.
Well, all that cold and wet all winter, you that's what you pay for the beautiful spring and summer you're about to have. So
Yeah,
that's I'm a Northwest native, so I know all about that.
yeah, right on. All right, what are we talking about today?
Well, let's see. Firefly, just unfortunately, they lost their first stage before they could deploy the satellites. So that was not a win for them today. They had a bad day.
Nope,
But,
they had a bad day. That's all right. As we say a lot, space is hard. So
yeah.
I still like seeing it. You know, a couple days ago, the world broke another record. We launched 6 rockets in 18 hours.
Yeah.
5 of the 6 got on orbit exactly as planned. One of them made it to orbit, but kind of not quite far enough, so they went to the wrong orbit. But this is great. This is great for Firefly. It's terrific seeing them come alive. What's their heritage? Do you know their heritage?
Fireflies?
Yeah.
Not all of it, no. I mean, they did that beautiful blue moon thing, about a month or so ago. That was insane. I was at the Space Congress in Colorado 3 weeks ago, and they had a model of an actual real model of that craft on display for everyone to look at. It was kind of fun.
Nice. I'm not 100% on this. Maybe the internet can check me on it, but I think they were part of John Carmack's original team out of Boston with their zombie craft, and they had another one that was part of the original, not the original X Prize, but the second one, the reuse one.
It was the Centennial Challenge.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the Centennial Challenge. I think that was their origin story. I'm not 100% on that, but
That would not surprise me, just given that. Oh God! After they got beat by another company in a Centennial Challenge later on,
yep,
that whole outfit just kind of went away.
yeah,
Like Carmack
yeah.
lost interest. Oh, somebody beat me, so I lost interest. I don't know. It was weird, but
No,
that would not surprise me.
yeah, I think that's where that team comes from. I think that's a starting point. I don't know how many of those original people are on this version, but
Well, a lot of origin stories were like that, though. I mean,
yeah. So
a lot of
Doug is
people.
saying it's Armadillo.
Yeah, Armadillo. Yeah, but the other, when Walt Anderson did Rotary Rocket, a
Yeah,
lot of the people he hired to help him do that ended up founding X-Core.
right. It's just layers of
Yep.
layers of layers of layers.
Yeah.
30 years, 3 decades
I know.
of crashes get us to this point. So
I know. Of course,
yeah,
some cynics would go, "Oh, well, yeah, you're failing upwards," because we
yeah,
see that in politics a lot. So here we go. But we're doing it in engineering too. But maybe it's for a higher purpose, and people do learn their lessons and they do better. So
I hope so. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I think it might be Armadillo. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to check that. I'm gonna have to check this afterwards. But it's cool. Nobody wants a fiery first rocket, but they want fire on the right end of it, not the other end of it. All right, this one's kind of neat. Amazon's Kuiper. That is a big deal. I hope that people appreciate. God, there's a lot of ads on these sites. I thought I had this part up. It's cool. I have I'm in the Seattle area, so Blue Origin's headquarters are right here. I was having dinner with a Blue Origin friend yesterday, and I've got friends that have stuff hardware on that flight on Monday, so pretty excited about that.
Yeah. The well, interestingly, now Amazon wants to be, in the Constellation sweepstakes. I'm not sure how that bodes for them. I mean, we just had a discussion about space debris earlier. Okay, well, how quick can we add to the potential? And they're, of course, obviously, Amazon is not using SpaceX to launch their satellites. They have 80 flights booked through ULA.
Yeah,
interestingly, and Ariane Space, Blue Origin. I guess there is a couple they're flying on SpaceX, but they're using anyone who will give them a ride the soonest. It looks like.
Yeah. They
no matter what it costs.
They shocked the world about 2 years ago, where they just bought 80% of the available rocketry. They just wrote 6 checks in 6 days, and I'm making up some of that statistic, but they wrote a lot of checks very quickly and bought a gigantic portion of the whole industry's launch capability, because they didn't have the launch capacity themselves, and the economics of Kuiper were solid. So 3,200 satellites. This is the first 27. So curious where that goes.
Well, we'll see how much bang they give for their buck. Not literally, of course, but
right. And then alongside Starlink, Europe's OneWeb, and China's Golang system, that's a lot of stuff in the sky. A lot.
as this thing keeps growing and we still get more and more and more out there, maybe we need to find somebody who can speak to this and do a specific show on traffic control.
Yeah.
How do you get, who does keep track of all this, and how do launch service providers get tracked in real time with the available data they need to avoid a problem? And how hard is it getting?
Let's make a note to our producer Sean. Thanks, Sean. Let's get Leo Labs on the show. Yeah, we spent a couple weeks talking about logistics. Now maybe is a good time to spend a couple weeks talking about congestion on orbit.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. I like the idea a lot.
Absolutely. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
In other news, well, I guess the Senate Commerce Committee finally advanced Jared Isaacson's nomination for NASA administrator.
Yeah.
So he got out of committee. He's on his way to the full Senate. So now the question becomes, how long will that take before the Senate actually votes? Or will the Democrats in the Senate try to slow walk it?
You know, there's almost nothing that the Dems can do to stop this.
Yeah.
So he's not official, but for all intents and purposes, this is the guy that's going to run NASA once it's confirmed. But they don't have to move it very quickly. There were a lot of concerns about Bridenstine many years ago.
Well, didn't it take almost a year to finally get him in?
It did.
They were rudderless for a year.
That was the example I was going to give. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't think that NASA can be rudderless for a year.
Not again.
Not again. Yeah.
Oh man.
I would argue that I didn't love our last administrator either. So
oh God, no.
I don't think Nelson did us any favors.
That was Mr. Senator SLS there.
Yeah.
The founder of the Senate launch system was in charge of NASA. That was brutal. That was a brutal 4 years. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, it was a brutal 4 years.
Well, I'm solidly blue, but I was like, there are so many better choices than this guy. So I
loved how Isaacman tried to stay kind of Graham neutral on all of this stuff, because he was they were asking him a lot of hard questions about, okay, what's the future of SLS? He kind of danced around it and said, look, here's what emerged from that is the idea for me that he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. We know we're in a tough spot, budgeting and all the other stuff we're going through. Let's go ahead. We've got a couple of 3 launches of SLS on the docket already. Let's get through them. Let's push it, get to the moon ahead of our rivals, just to make the statement. But then for sustainable operations going forward, we go back to the commercial sector, which is a lot more cost effective, to start throwing material at the moon, and also more landers and other things, and let the private commercial sector, okay, NASA led the way, now we can go somewhere else. And maybe they'll find a use for SLS once in a while for Mars exploration or something else. But it's not sustainable as the launcher of record for a long-term lunar project.
What kills me is people keep asking him, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Yeah. And it's the people who actually can tell him what to do that are asking him the questions, right? Yeah. I know. His perfect answer is, gentlemen, I will do what you tell me to do. What you quote as law, what you establish as law, I will do my best to execute. And then he doesn't have to answer these questions.
Right. And he actually did that once. There was one project that he was kind of against in principle, but they already voted for it in the Congress. So says, okay, I wasn't a big fan of that, but you voted for it, so I will do my best to execute it for you.
Here we go. Right, exactly.
That's my job.
Yep. So it's pretty interesting. I will point out there's only one sentence in this article that references Mars.
Yeah.
Right. So it's only been 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, I think, 3 weeks, Doug Plata, Dr. Plata came up with his article that we interviewed him on. Only a few days later, well, I have the order backwards, but Doug authored his article. Isaacman is in front of the Senate, and he talks about Moon and Mars together. And then a few days after that, the Trump administration's like, no, we're going to cut a bunch of NASA science. JPL might be a ghost town. I'm really concerned about that.
Yeah.
But now here we are 2 weeks later, and hardly a whisper about Mars. That's how fast that all changed.
And he's going to have to do everything at once. We have a question in the chat, it's that, asking, I guess, our opinion of what should Isaacman do first when he becomes the director of NASA. I can think of 18 different things he could do first, and they all be equally important.
Well, the obvious answer is build an elevator on the moon, but that's a biased opinion. That's a biased opinion.
Well, I would start up. I'd like to see him fight for the restoration of funding for the science. I've always disagreed with those cuts.
Yeah.
And, he should at least throw a bone to those guys and try to fight for them and try to get some of that restored.
I think science.
It's a pittance compared to what we spend on the military, on the welfare state and everything else. Interest on the debt alone is $1 trillion a year. Come on.
Yeah.
Less than 0.5% of all federal spending goes to NASA anyway.
I don't understand how the folks with the red hats don't understand that science is what makes America great.
Absolutely.
So,
and I think there are a lot of guys in red hats. I don't wear a red hat because I don't look good in red. But I think a lot of guys understand me. My background's in a deep science background and technology. So it's very important.
Science is what makes America great.
It just drove me nuts to see that. It's absolutely meaningless.
It's hard. It's hard to watch that. All right. Let's talk about Apex. I don't know that much about these folks, to be honest. So
I don't either. That's why
I had not been following their story at all.
Where'd they come from? And all of a sudden they raised $200 million to build satellites.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Well, that is interesting. Oh, did you want to go further about? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut off the.
Sure.
The person in chat. Did you want to say anything more about? All right. If you were to let's ignore this article for a second. If you had three things, I made a sarcastic answer about what would you do if you were in Jared's seat, like actually as the sitting administrator. What are three things? What are three things you would do right off the bat?
Well, again, I would fight to get the science funding back. I would develop some clarity about what the long-term goals are going to be. I mean, he hinted at a lot of stuff without really, putting his foot down during the hearings. I wonder how much of that was just, neutral BS just to get himself out of committee. And I'd like to see him sit down and say, okay, this is the route we're going to take to the moon. This is a route we're going to take to Mars, and this is how we're going to do it. I like to see a step forward in that.
Yeah.
For those are the important things to me.
Clear routes in science. You don't have a third one.
I did right now. Probably one will pop into my head before the hour's over. But
cancel SLS. Here, I'll help you with that one.
Well, no, I think SLS is going to be part of his plan. I think it's going to be we're going to get to the moon ahead of the Chinese and plant the flag. Yeah. And then we're going to use SpaceX and Blue Origin and all those commercial launchers from that point forward to get lots and lots of stuff out there to the moon and people for 1/5 the cost of an SLS launch.
Yeah.
SLS will be relegated to the back burner where it has that maybe that one special capability that nobody else has that makes it worth, the $2 billion to launch it. And good luck.
For me, I mostly mimic yours. I'm not kidding about lunar elevator first. I actually do think that is the first thing they should do.
I'm a fan. I've always been a fan.
But then second, you know, not just restore the science, but amplify the science. Ask for more money to do science,
Yeah.
which is a hard no, but at least you have to put it out there and ask for it.
Well, this is interesting. Our producer just told us, on his wish list would be a push towards standardization,
I was
which
going
we
to
talk
say
about
that.
a lot.
I was going to say that. Yeah, good call, Sean. That's what I was thinking. I would push for some standards. Have the NIST of space, the National Institute of Standards and Tech. What does T stand for? I thought it was measurement, but I don't know. Anyway, the National Institute for Standards for space, I think, would make a world of difference for the whole world's industry. All right, so that's enough of my soapbox. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. And we still don't know much about Apex, but it's a C
Yeah.
round. They raised 95 million already in a B round.
Yep.
And now they got another 200 for a C round, and they're going to use it to ramp up production of his Ares satellite bus and the larger Nova bus. God, I wish I knew more about these guys.
Yeah, I am a little bit lost.
But I guess the investment community is saying, hey, we see the traction.
Yep.
They got traction, so let's shove some more money in.
Yeah.
And the round is actually oversubscribed.
I always love that, right? Because you know, you and I, we think we're pretty clued in to the news of the industry. And this isn't the first time we've been surprised, right? Like we kind of know what we're talking about. We've been at this a while, but every once in a while something comes in from the edges that we weren't seeing or didn't know about. So for me, this just kind of goes on my reading list and something to go.
Yeah, well, apparently they build satellites, but they build satellite buses in particular. And it looks like they're trying to instill some, standardization maybe.
Right.
And their factories in LA, and apparently that factory is going to be busy through the end of next year at this point.
That's really, really cool.
But they've only launched one satellite so far. And that's the interesting part. Raising 300 mil, in a couple of years. And they only launched one satellite as a tech demo.
Yeah.
And it's been a year in orbit now.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Absolutely bonkers. All right. Let's move to this one. This was the graphic that you were like, we have a depressing graphic.
We only need to we don't need to spend more than 30 seconds on that, but it's this is getting back out of our bubble, because every week we do these shows or we go to space conferences or something like that, and we get in our bubble. We're always right with the world. We get to talk about all the cool stuff that gets us up in the morning, but then you leave the bubble and you go back to the real world. And here's another snapshot. Despite how much we love space and want to pay for it, this is the snapshot of what the world really looks like.
Right.
And right now, our
debt to
GDP, we're 123% overbooked in terms of our debt versus our economic output.
Right. Yeah, I honestly don't know how that math works. It's bonkers to me. But even the very best managed country in the world, ratio-wise, Zimbabwe, Seychelles, and Belize are at 60%. Costa Rica, Colombia, 60%.
Space powers, both of them.
Right.
Space powers.
So it is a little strange. Like, this is like, it's a little misleading, but it also is sobering, right? Like, how does Japan manage a 200%, 235% debt? How do they do that as a well-developed nation? How do they even manage that? So it's curious. I saw this and it was just like, it was odd. It was odd to me.
But you look at these countries and you wonder how they kept their ratio that low, because especially a country like Zimbabwe, who's been in an inflationary death spiral forever.
Mm-hmm.
Countries like that. I mean, none of these guys are going to have a space program anytime soon. Aruba, Yemen, Uruguay. But even the inner circle, Bhutan has nothing. Mozambique has nothing. Spain doesn't do much.
Right.
Canada hitches a ride with us most of the time.
Oh, but Canada just this week, they're having a launch event, not a conference, a conference about nationally developing capabilities for launch in Canada. That's happening like this week. And they want to build their own launch vehicles. So that's a new thing. That's a new thing up there. There've been there's been talk about it for a while, and there's a somewhat successful launch facility up in Norway, Norway, Sweden.
Right, near Trondheim, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Canada, they make a good argument. There's a spaceport up in Alaska. So it makes some sense for them to have their own capacity. They're definitely trying to separate themselves and build out some capability. They've been a leader in orbital rocketry for a really long time.
Sure. But then again, there are as of right now, there's like 125 launch, startup or early stage or functioning companies right now. We've always said that sooner or later there's going to be a massive downshift in that number. We don't know when, but right now, a lot of these countries are low in the totem pole. They could have their own launch company. They could reach out and say, oh, look at all you other guys. You're not getting a lot of money. Come on in.
Yeah.
Come on in. We'll give you a deal. You can launch for us. Zimbabwe could have a launcher. Who knows?
Yep. Well, we had Jason Held on. They built the Australian Space Agency. It makes some sense for Australia to build a launch capability separate from New Zealand, separate from Rocket Labs. So
sure.
There's value in having national sovereignty for launch. So those couple hundred companies out there, pick up stakes and move to Canada.
Yeah,
I've lived there twice. It's a great place to live.
So take off, eh? So you can really take off. Okay, we're going to move on.
Right. Yeah.
Good. Now, in all our discussions about space business, angel and venture finance, and industry movers and shakers that we have on the show, we haven't spent yet a lot of time on something that's important to everybody: marketing, branding, and sales. Well, that changes now. In fact, it changes for a whole week. But our guest tonight is Nasir Rizwan, founder of Solaris, a developer of brand awareness and marketing programs for space tech firms. And he's going to fill us in tonight on how things are funded, built, and sold, or maybe more to the point, should be. Nasir, welcome to the program.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. And I'm really looking forward to this.
Oh, good. We're looking forward to it too. So I'm going to start out very basic, and then we'll kind of move on from there. I like to just fill us all in. We don't know much about you. Give us an idea of your background and how long you've been doing this thing. Whether is your business a consulting practice, that kind of thing. How'd you get into this? Where'd you start?
So as you know, my name is Nasir Rizwan, and I'm the founder of Solaris, which is a space tech marketing agency. And like 2 years back, I graduated as in the business administration type of it. But I was into marketing since I was in high school. So I've been doing this for a couple of years. And along with that, I've been working with other research organizations such as the Mars Society. I'm their ambassador as well. And I'm working to build an analog research facility here in Pakistan for all the South Asian students. But my interest was mostly on the entrepreneur side of space. And then I realized this thing when I was studying and talking to a lot of interesting founders that marketing in space tech is often overlooked. Which is like a neglected part of it. And that really made me pursue this path and see explore the opportunities and connect with people and how we can actually build the awareness around space tech.
Okay. So I guess let's get in then to what you do. You had a whole thing before the show. We talked about some things you wanted to show us or offer us and talk about kind of the work you do and how you do it and and we'll talk. I also want to ask you about the kind of customers you have, but let's start with that, the basics of your current practice and how it evolved and what you do.
Yeah, so the biggest hurdle for new space tech startup is often just simply starting their online or digital presence, and they often overcomplicate this thing. Like I remember when I had my first client, who was actually happened to be a friend of mine, and we tried to grow in like through 10 different marketing channels, and we got overwhelmed. So the next time we focused on just getting started, putting our thought out and why actually we are existing, something as simple as this, like why we exist or why we are doing this, and it was so much more rewarding and manageable. So this is like I would say like the crux of what I do. But there are other things that when we like work with the space tech startups, we get to know is like space tech founders are basically deeply technical when it comes to messaging, brand, fundraising, and we have seen that they struggle to connect. And the issue is not their capability; it's communication. It's like how they build narrative around their brand or what they are doing. Like if we look back at the example of Apollo missions, like it wasn't just only about rockets. It was framed as like a giant leap for mankind. So the story carried the mission into history. So how founders can actually use their personal brand, something like social media, what they post online, it can actually how it can build trust, how it can build brand, really makes up how they can grow and how they are perceived in the market, and really opens a tons of opportunities for them. So basically that's what my work is around, like how we can empower founders to actually go out and talk on social media and what the interesting things they are doing, so that the general public would understand.
So you think social media is key to building awareness?
So like there's this thing that when you are in space tech, you're not basically building a spacecraft. You are building trust with funders, with partners, and with the general public. So like that's where while you are engineering the equipment, you're also engineering the public image. So one thing is the founders, they often hide behind their company pages. Like not a lot of them are really like open to sharing the things
Yeah, that's
they
true.
are doing. So yeah, so a silent founder doesn't build momentum. Who doesn't show up ideas and share ideas. So it's important for them if they are like an early space tech or an aerospace startup. They have to build the relations early on. So that is one key thing for getting started. And I believe that social media is just like very instrumental in this. Like if you have just an optimized presence and you are connected with people, so it really propels your visions forward.
Okay. Um, Now, interesting. Obviously, space is kind of a specialized niche, even for what the stuff that you do. And so, in the work that you've done to date, um, what are the unique challenges for you as a marketer for a space tech company as opposed to something else out there?
Interesting question. So, I would say, awareness is currently one of the biggest challenge for new space tech founders and startups, that they have to build that awareness around their product. So, like that's where the narrative engineering comes in. So, they have to do, even before they sell the technology, they have to build the market around it. They have to educate people around their product and how it can help in socioeconomic development. So like a strong narrative makes that space tech relatable. Like how they turn stories, their specs into stories and features into benefit. That really is the starting point for them. And one thing I would say is like a lot of new aerospace or SpaceX startups, they are barely visible, and people don't know actually why or who they are and why they exist. So they have to consciously build that brand and build that trust, because trust, is traction. And how they would do is they would consistently communicate with a clear purpose, and they educate the audience. So basically, the one unique challenge for them is like, if we take an example of suppose Microsoft or Apple. So by the time they started out, they had the proper infrastructure set up. Well, if you are into space, you have to build things from scratch. So this is one challenge for them. And my focus is on the visibility, on strategic networking side of it, because space founders need to be visible and not just credible. Because you have to be talking about your missions, your work on LinkedIn, on technical blogs, on the conferences, because these are your digital launch pads, and it has to be intentional. And how they would do is they can do something like tell stories, give values, and like by staying visible. So for this is we actually curate marketing content strategy for them, like how they could do is like how they can talk about their startup on social media. And this actually really makes their message more impactful and relatable to people.
We just had a news article about uh, who was it? They just raised $200 million more Apex on an original $100 million, $95 million, and yet here Tom and I are. We've never heard of them before, and it kind of goes exactly to the point that you just said, right? Here's a company with $300 million, and here's two people that know a lot, not everything, but a lot about a growing industry. It's a $650-ish billion industry. So yeah, somebody who raises 300 million can fly under the radar, but still it goes to your point about nobody knows all the things that are happening in this industry, and they're not good at their story. They didn't tell their story. Jeff Faust at Space News did. So I think you're right, and I know that we never really got good at telling our story. It's the reason why Tom is hosting this show, so that he can tell the story of the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. But no, as a rule, this industry is pretty terrible at branding and awareness. So, we just asked the question, what would you do if you were running NASA and coming up with 3 questions? So, what would you do if you were running a space startup? What would be the first 3 things you did to build your story?
Yeah. So even before answering that questions, there are a few mistakes that a lot of space tech startups I see they are currently making, and I would first try to make sure to like avoid those mistakes so that I am on the right ground to to grow and to resonate more with people. And which is something as simple as I have to be specific over technical. So like I have to define myself by my technology, and it's just like saying you have to focus on the problems, such as we have this company called like Spire Global. They have positioned themselves as a like data as service, and they are not advertising themselves as nano operators. And often if as a founder, if somebody is like on social media, they are like actually advertising themselves as the aerospace engineer. So like they have to be really specific, like either they are on the space design systems, or they are in the launch or the propulsion stage of it. So we have to be really clear on like who we are talking to. So like we have to be really specific, like is it the space agencies, like defense, military, satellite operators, or universities or academia. Like we have to pinpoint who we are targeting, so that this really makes us communicative on like what we have to do. Then coming back to your point, like what we have to do like in 3 steps. First I would do is optimize all of our social medias. Like we know that currently the biggest social media platform is our Facebook and LinkedIn. So what I would do is I'll make sure all our company pages, they're really optimized. Suppose if we are in the space in the industry, or we are providing satellite data as service, all the relevant keywords that people are searching on the internet, on the web, they have been intentionally included in our bio, in our page, so that if somebody randomly searches up that keyword, even not knowing us, they are linked to our company pages. So optimization is really important. Second thing is I will make sure Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and obviously TikTok, they are all optimized. And then we have a content strategy like refined for them. So one thing I have noticed really often here is all of these social media posts, they are more of like a press release sort of a thing. It's highly technical, and it's not resonating with a lot of people. So if you are someone new and you see that post, you would be like, you barely understand parts of it, and it's quite understandable because it is not meant for that audience. But we tend to fail to find that balance there. Okay, if I am a new startup owner and I have to grow my startup, I have to attract the ideal clients as well as the general public. I How do I manage, or how do I strategize my content, so that you have to do intentionally. So what I have done for one of my clients who happen to be in the aerospace sector, and they design the UAVs and the things like that for their clients in Europe and US. So we did this content pillaring for them, which was not present before. So how we did was we created this educational content pillar in which we were educating our ideal clients or the general public about the industry norms, or the things happening within the industry, or such as the news, like the trends. This was all based in the educational content. It could be something as simple as like if you are happen to be in the satellite space, you could say talk about like how satellites data can help predict crop failures weeks in advance, or something as simple as what people get so wrong about space, and what's like something even as simple as like what's the difference between Earth observation, synthetic aperture radar, or hyperspectral, like why and how we use them. So you are actually building awareness around your brand, and this is something most new startups tend to miss it, because they're all the time they're talking about the technical aspect of oh, this is who we are, this is what we did, without actually educating the public. So educational content is really crucial for if you are a new startup. And then another thing is you can talk about the problem solving content. This is going to be the second pillar for you if you are starting early in the space tech. So it could be something like what are the the biggest space data integration problems and how we solve them. Or it could be like what should be your disaster response strategy, like how can you best leverage the satellite data to fight disasters. Or so basically you are solving a problem for them, and you are at the same time you're educating them. So these type of content really build that resonancy, the education around your content. And then that the important part is the social proof content. So in this part you can talk about your client results, something that you did for your clients, what the projects you did. So there has to be a fine balance of it. The problem is most of the people, they post the social proof content 90% of the time, and 10% of the time they are either sharing the conferences pictures that are irrelevant to the general public. So there has to be a fine balance between it. So like what we did was we did like a 40% for this was this startup was based in a third world country, and it was able to get a few good investors. So what we did was like our content was 40% on the educational side of it, and 30% on the problem side of it, and another like 20 to 30% was on the social proof side of it. So we were attracting new eyeballs, we were generating new traffic, as well as we were funneling those people into like our clientage. So this is really important stuff. So with that's this, we will optimize our profiles, we will create social media strategy, and then the last part, which is really important part, is strategic outreach. So what this means is you don't have to reach out to people in the conferences only. You can leverage the really powerful tools at the moment, which are really cheap, that you can use to reach out to people. And one of them is like the Sales Navigator. Like, I'm sure
Oh yeah.
this webinar is right now like going live or through my profile on LinkedIn as well, and a lot of people have access to LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and it's such a powerful tool that I can pinpoint a person who's like basically an investor, or somebody who's a startup founder who is based in US in a specific state and who has this type of interest, and I can even pinpoint the connections, the type of connections that person has. So if I would like try to like leverage that thing, I have a list of people, 100, 200, 300 people who are the right decision makers. It could be like, if you're a startup founder, you are looking for investors, you can pinpoint those investors. If you are into the HR, you can find the new talent, those people who can contribute to your space tech startup. And once you have there, you just have to strategically reach out to them, send the DMs. It's going to be really personalized, and this is very easy networking as compared to like booking a exhibition booth at a conference and going there and spending like thousands of bucks and going there and finding out like you were actually able to meet to like only a couple of people. So that is something that I believe all the HR people, or somebody who's managing your social media, or the founder at least, should be aware that there's this tons of potential of social media, that they can, that's it, actually at their fingersteps, that you can use to grow their startup in terms of awareness, visibility, and growth. So tying it back, it could be like optimizing all of your social medias, and then having a very intentional content strategy, and followed by the third thing, which is strategic outreach using tools such as LinkedIn, a Sales Navigator, that I would do.
Okay, I have a couple things. I know you in part of all the the tools in your toolbox you talk about. You mentioned the words press release very quickly and then walked away from it. Now, from my own experience of late, I'm wondering whether or not the press release as a outreach tool has the impact that it used to have long ago. Is a press release dead as we know it?
Yeah. So if you're talking about the social media, we have seen that audience retention rate has gradually decreased. So if it is for your website, it's going to work really good. If it is for your private email list, it's fine. But if it's on the social media, you can one thing you could do is you can summarize it, or you could feed that to ChatGPT or any AI tool, and you can tell it to summarize it in bullet points, so that you have a strong hook, and then you have a bullet points, and then you say, if you're interested to know more about it, here's the link, and then you can go to the official page to read it. So on social media, what how social media punishes you is, if you have a very long post, people are not going to read it, and if they're not going to read it, the algorithm is going to pick it up as something that's really boring, and it's not going to show it to more people. So one thing you could do is you could reframe that thing in form of a video. Like, suppose not exactly a press release, but you can talk about like the thing that you're working on. Maybe have someone in marketing, we call it the user generated content, which is actually coming from the users, the people who have user like product. In this case, we can use one of our clients, or somebody from our team member, someone who is new. I mean, this really works. So like, you have an employee and just say, okay, I want you to talk about it. I know you're young and you're really passionate. How about you record this 30-second video and talk about the projects or the stuff we have done? And if that goes on our company page, it's going to be reposted by all of our employees, since it is not a robotic, it's featuring a human. So it's much easier to do human interaction. It's much more scalable, it gets more visibility. So that's one way to do it.
Okay. The other thing, we have a question from the chat, and Morty's
Yeah.
been patiently waiting. when you're doing so, you're developing a marketing plan. You're going through this process with a company. Um, do you help them do that initial marketing plan launch and kind of hold their hand through the process, or are you just making the plan for them and then training them to just do it themselves?
Yeah, so like before I used to do it all myself and my team. Now we are offering that helping them, so how we could do with them, like how they can best develop the marketing plan, how they could do the market research and ideal client persona identification, how they could do it. So yeah, we do it directly and we can work like simultaneously with them. So like my idea here is making it so simple and scalable that the person who's using their social media actually understands why we are doing it, and it's not something very technical. It's like how the algorithm works and what things work and what things don't. So like if you are following the things that have worked, the things that social media the algorithm promotes, you are likely to get more engagement, or you're likely to get more
Mhm.
awareness and the scalability. So it's actually basically it comes down to how good you understand how the algorithm works. And for that, I have a newsletter on my profile, which is like how space tech professionals can grow their LinkedIn and social media. It's actually absolutely free, and I like occasionally talk about it, how space professionals can use it to grow it. So that is one thing that they can greatly benefit from.
Okay, you're. I know you are based in Pakistan. I'm just curious about your current client base or the people you're reaching out to make into clients. Are they basically mostly Asia based, or do you branch out?
Yeah. So like we have a couple of clients in Asia, and we have like two startups who are working on space sustainability, and they are based in Europe. So yeah, we were actually like experimenting a few things, like how the industry works and how we can best work with them, and how so the industry basically is how we can like choose different conferences, such as one that is upcoming is in by the end of this year, International Astronautical Congress. Like I happen to be there. Like I'm planning to be there. Actually, one of my papers got accepted. So we were thinking in terms of how we can actually leverage this digital presence, as well as how we can actually go there and like market our best brands, and like how we can best use these opportunities, such as this online conferences and webinars, to like help these startups get the visibility.
We're also going to be at the ISC in Sydney. Tom's pretty involved with the business tracks over there, so yeah, that's gonna be fun. Um, Tell us about the space entrepreneurial ecosystem of Pakistan, because we don't know anything about that.
Yeah. It's actually a really good question. So Pakistan recently formed its space policy like 2 years back, and they have been working tirelessly to promote those new entrepreneurs who are based in Pakistan. That we've been seeing a lot of good potential here, a lot of startups who are competing on the international level in terms of like the aerospace things, the UAVs, the drone stuff. They've been really making things up to the mark. Also, once like in terms of Pakistan's progress in this, uh, last year Pakistan sent its first lunar satellite on board Chinese mission, so it's currently orbiting Moon. And in the next 3 years, the Suparco, which is the National Space Agency of Pakistan, they're working on developing a rover here, which is going to go on the moon, a lunar rover basically. At the same time, two first Pakistani astronauts are preparing to go on the Chinese space station. And also along with that, I happen to go to the southern part of the country, which is like a desert, and it really looks like a Martian environment. So I was really inspired by the analog research facilities in Judah, which is from like the Mars Society, and how they're working on like Mars research program. And when I like visited that part of the country, I realized that this so much resembles like Mars, and why don't we have a facility here? So I put up some few proposals that are like ongoing. We're working on that, like how we can build an analog research facility in the southern part of Pakistan, like an analog research facility which is going to be the South Asia for the South Asian students. And the work is undergoing. And when I happen to be in ISC, one of my paper is also about the analogs and how we can establish them in South Asia. So yeah, the country is really progressing forward. The government and the National Space Agency is actually like really contributing toward this thing, and there are like a few cool people who are actively working on this as well.
I just put the link to this document in the chat. I'll take a look at it afterwards. Looks really interesting. Okay, so that's kind of the governmental side. What is the entrepreneurial ecosystem look like? And we're running out of time here, so we only have another 5 minutes left. But what does the entrepreneurial environment in Pakistan look like?
Yeah. So there happen to be a few incubation centers, such as NICAT, which is National Incubation Center for Aerospace Technologies, and they're actually this is an incubation where all the entrepreneurs who are like based on aerospace and space, they're actually being mentored by the professionals who happen to be from different diverse backgrounds, and they're actually helping them like sharpen their skills and compete with the global standards. So things like this, there happen to be multiple incubators like this throughout the country, and which is actually really helping inspiring young generation as well as those professionals who have just graduated and they're like seeking to like start something new. Before it was like one option for them would be to move abroad and see like how they could like be part of any like company or an organization, but thanks to such incubators, they have been like using their best potential in the country and like choosing like how they can best contribute to space tech and aerospace.
Very cool. I'm a big fan of the Space Advisory Council, Space Generation Advisory Council. What's your role there? And is it an active community?
Yeah, so as we know, Space Generation Advisory Council is like a young space professionals platform, and I happen to work with them. So, like 2 years back, we along with a few friends, we brought a NASA Citizen Scientist program to Pakistan, which was like helping underprivileged students get their first hands-on experience on scientific data and discovery process. And we really collaborated with the Space Generation Advisory Council and their national point of contacts here in Pakistan. They've been quite active here, as well as I'm currently working in their diversity and inclusion project group as a research member, and we are working on how we can have those inclusive practices when it comes to space sector, because like all of my work like before marketing, I happen to be volunteer a lot in the underprivileged part of the countries, like basically going to schools in different villages with my telescopes and showing these kids how solar systems and how planets and moon look through the telescope. It also included some teacher training workshops about based on like space and astronomy. So like that work has been really complemented by the Space Nation Advisory Council's vision. I'm really happy that I can like learn from the professionals there and how can I contribute to that vision in my country, and how SGSC is like globally like affecting and reaching out to more communities like this in Pakistan.
We just so every month we give out $1,000 to it's our space micro grant, and last month, or no, this month, no, sorry, it's May. April, we just gave Spacebar Africa $1,000 so they could go buy some telescopes, because they're doing the same thing in Lagos, which I just think that's a beautiful mission.
Yeah.
And on that, we're kind of coming to time.
Yep. We are coming to an end, but that's Nasir Rizwan. It's been a great pleasure having you on the program. and I hope I have you back again sometime. This has been a great education, an introductory education to all the aspects of marketing for space companies and the unique challenges they provide. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful being here with you all.
Terrific.
Okay, Michael, this coming Monday, May 5th, we have what is essentially, unless something else happens over the weekend, we have kind of an open mic night. We're going to discuss all sorts of, we're going to come up with some really interesting things to talk about with our listeners. And we hope they'll all sign in and start throwing questions at the wall about all sorts of wild things. Nothing is off the deck. Go ahead, and throw out your craziest space fantasy, and we'll see if we can either make it work or shoot it down. And I'm really good. I was really good for years, as you know, as making some of these startup owners cry. So it's going to be, so give me your best pitch. Give me what you got, any topic, any kind, a company that you're, pitching, whatever it is, let's talk about it and have some fun. And then the following Thursday, May 8th, and apparently one is going to be a series of shows on now which we haven't done before. Now all of a sudden we got a bunch of them, marketing and media for space tech companies. We have someone named Jonathan Stroud will be with us for that show. In fact, he was on our chat tonight.
Yeah, he was here already.
So that was cool. So we're gonna be seeing him in full flower on Thursday.
Right on.
All righty. So, having said that, our time is gone. But from the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the sky.